What if the biggest mistake of your life took less than 5 minutes to make? No long battle, no dramatic temptation, just hunger. A bowl of soup, and a decision so small he probably forgot about it by dinner. He didn't lose his birthright in a moment of weakness. He lost it because he never understood what he had in the first place. This is the story of Esau, and it's not the story you think it is. Most retellings of this story make it simple. Esau was careless, Jacob was clever, lesson learned. But that reading skips the most important question in the entire story: why a starving man would trade away his entire future for one meal, and still feel, deep down, like he got the better deal in the moment.
We're not just retelling Genesis 25. We're examining something every single person watching this has done in some form. Traded a future they couldn't feel yet for a relief they could feel right now. This isn't an ancient story about soup. It's a modern story about time horizons and how hunger, physical, emotional, or financial, rewires how we value things. Esau wasn't stupid. That's the twist almost nobody talks about. He was something far more relatable. He was present, and presence without perspective is dangerous.
Isaac and Rebekah had 2 sons, and from the womb, they were already at war. Esau came first, red, hairy, wild, a man of the open field. Jacob came second, gripping his brother's heel, smooth-skinned, a man who stayed close to the tent, close to his mother, close to calculation.
Esau became the hunter, the provider, the kind of son a father is proud to walk beside. Jacob became the planner, the watcher. He knew exactly when his brother would be weakest. The one who noticed things.
Pause here because this detail matters more than people realize. Jacob didn't ambush Esau on a random day. He didn't offer the soup when Esau was simply a little hungry. The text is specific. Esau came in from the field, exhausted, and said the words, "I am about to die." That phrase is doing a lot of work. Esau wasn't being dramatic. In a desert economy, exhaustion and hunger were not abstract discomforts, they were genuine, recurring brushes with death. When you felt that kind of depletion, your brain doesn't calculate decades into the future. It calculates the next 10 minutes. This is where many people misread the story entirely. They think Esau's failure was greed. It wasn't greed. It was a collapsed time horizon, a psychological state where the only thing that exists is right now. Modern psychology has a name for this: present bias. The well-documented tendency for severe deprivation to shrink our ability to value future rewards. Esau wasn't weak-willed. He was, in that moment, neurologically incapable of caring about a birthright he couldn't eat, couldn't drink, and couldn't feel.
Jacob didn't offer comfort, he didn't offer help, he offered a deal. First, sell me your birthright, not a kindness, a price. And Esau, doubled over with hunger, said the 4 words that would define the rest of his life. What good is a birthright to me?
The entire transaction is described as almost mechanical. Eat, drink, rise, leave, no reflection, no hesitation, no second look at what he just gave up. That speed is the most chilling part of the whole account, and it's exactly why this story has survived for thousands of years. He didn't agonize over the decision. He had already mentally made it long before this exact moment, by treating the birthright as worthless every day leading up to it. Here's the insight almost no sermon mentions. The birthright wasn't lost in this scene. It was lost before this scene, in 1,000 smaller moments where Esau simply didn't think about it. The soup didn't cause the loss. The soup revealed it. This is the difference between a single bad decision and a pattern of neglect finally cashing its check. Esau's tragedy wasn't impulsiveness. It was that he'd spent years treating his inheritance as background noise, something that would simply always be there, regardless of how he lived.
But this is where everything changes. Because if you think this story ends with the soup, you're missing the real gut punch. The most devastating verse in this entire account isn't about the deal at all.
Genesis 25:34 ends with a sentence so quiet most people read right past it. Not lost, not traded.
This is the verse that reframes the entire story, and it's the part almost every retelling skips, because it doesn't fit the simple morality tale version. The Bible isn't saying Jacob tricked an innocent victim. It's saying Esau held something sacred in his own contempt, and the soup simply gave him an excuse to finally throw it away. Here's the original layer most people never connect. This single word, despised, completely shifts the moral weight of the story. If Esau valued the birthright and lost it to manipulation, he's a victim. But if he despised it, have you ever watched someone walk away? Not because they were tricked, but because deep down, they never actually wanted what it required of them? That's not a tragedy of deception. That's a tragedy of self-knowledge arriving too late.
In the world Esau lived in, the birthright wasn't sentimental. It was structural. The firstborn received a double inheritance. He became the spiritual head of the family, carrying after his father's death. And in Abraham's specific bloodline, the birthright carried something even heavier. He would inherit the covenant promise God made to Abraham, the promise that would eventually become the entire nation of Israel.
This is where many misunderstand the stakes. Esau wasn't trading away a title. He was trading away his place in a promise that stretched across history. A promise he could not see, could not touch, and could not feel hungry for. Compare that to a bowl of lentil stew, which he could see, touch, smell, and taste immediately. This is the oldest trade in human history, the tangible now versus the invisible later. And every single time humans have made that trade across thousands of years, the tangible now wins, unless something interrupts the pattern. Here's the layer almost nobody draws out: Esau's failure. Wasn't a failure of character in the way we usually mean it. He wasn't cruel, or violent, or dishonest elsewhere in his story. He was, by most measures, the more emotionally generous brother. His failure was a failure of attention. He simply never trained himself to value what he couldn't immediately feel. And that is a far more universal failure than greed. Which is exactly why this story still cuts so deep 4,000 years later.
Here's what the story doesn't say out loud, but shows clearly. Jacob got what he wanted through manipulation, not virtue. He would spend years running from the consequences of this exact moment, defeated by his own father-in-law, estranged from his brother, wrestling literally with God before he could become the man worthy of what he'd taken.
This is the part that makes the story honest instead of simplistic. The Bible doesn't reward Jacob for being clever. It puts him through decades of hardship to earn the hard way, what he tried to take the easy way. That's not a detail. That's the entire moral architecture of the next 20 chapters of Genesis. So here's the real uncomfortable insight. This isn't a story with one villain and one victim. It's a story about two different ways of failing to value what matters. One brother didn't value the future at all. And one brother valued it so much, he was willing to lie, scheme, and manipulate to seize it before it was earned. Neither extreme is the goal. The whole rest of Genesis is essentially watching God patiently work both flaws out of both men.
Most of us will never sell a literal birthright, but almost all of us have done some version of what Esau did. We've traded long-term health for short-term comfort. We've traded a stable future for an immediate relief. We've said, in some quiet moment of exhaustion, "What good is that to me right now?" About a relationship, an opportunity, a discipline, a calling. Because in that moment, we couldn't feel its value, only its cost.
The deepest danger in this story isn't hunger. It's contempt born from distance. We despise what we don't actively engage with. A birthright ignored for years starts to feel worthless, long before anyone offers a bowl of soup for it. The soup was never the real test. The real test was every ordinary day before it, when nothing was being asked of Esau except to remember what he was carrying. So maybe the right question isn't, what would you trade your birthright for? Maybe the right question is, what have you already quietly stopped valuing, long before anyone offered you the soup? Because by the time the offer comes, the decision has usually already been made.
Esau didn't lose his future in one moment of weakness. He lost it in 1,000 moments of not looking. And the soup just happened to be the moment. The real birthright in your life right now isn't a title, or an inheritance, or anything written on paper. It's whatever you've stopped paying attention to because it doesn't feel urgent. Until, one day, hungry and exhausted, someone offers you a way to make the discomfort disappear right now, at a cost you won't feel until later. So here's the question worth sitting with tonight. What's the birthright in your life you've quietly stopped valuing? And what soup is it going to cost you before you notice?